Hi, I'm Stephanie Butterick. I'm here with Miranda Lucas and
Hello.
Michelle Gonzalez.
Hello.
We are your Eastern New York sales team here at Pride's Corner, and we are here to talk about perennials today. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We have a lot in front of us. So first up, we have Achillea Firefly Red Pop. It is a new addition to the Firefly series, which I really love. It's been a great addition for us here at Pride's. They are all really sturdy. They get about 2 feet tall, and they don't tend to flop, and they all have really vibrant flowers. Red Pop here has these really bright red flowers with a yellow eye, and it's a true red. So it's a lot of times they end up looking a little pinkish, but this one never does. It's hardy to zone 3 for all you northern customers out there. We had it last summer, so this will be our first full year with it, and it sold out quickly. So I'm looking forward to being able to get it out to more folks.
Okay, here's a brand new genus for all of us at Pride's, and probably you guys too. Alstroemeria coral chaos. So Alstroemeria is a commonly grown perennial in warmer zones, and it's native to South America. You guys have seen it as a cut flower at the florist. It's beautiful. Now we can grow it in our gardens here. So what makes coral chaos special is that it's hardy to zone 5. It was developed by Dr. Mark Bridgen out of the Cornell Extension in Riverhead, New York. The key to its hardiness is finding the right growing conditions. This plant really prefers a well-drained site. So just, make sure that you guys have good soil to grow it in, and it's going to survive the winter for you. Another growing tip for this plant is that when you're harvesting the flowers, you want to pull the entire stalk right from the base of the plant instead of cutting it. This will help to promote the growth of the flower stalks and give you an even longer lasting flower display. And who wouldn't want that? This is a gorgeous plant. You want it blooming in your garden, and you want to have a nice bouquet of it in the house too.
Yeah, and a few of our customers were growing it last year, and it really is hardy. And we always liked having Astrolameria here, but it was an annual, so it just never quite worked out for us. We're excited to have it back. Next up, we have Aster or Cynthia trichon oblongifolius twilight sky. Some plants in our new plant webinar are not new at all, but new to Pride's Corner, or maybe resurrected from a distant past. And this plant exemplifies that. It's been a Mount Cuba favorite for years due to its mounding habit and big periwinkle blooms. It gets taller than October skies, up to about 4 feet at maturity, as opposed to like 2 to 3 feet. And the flowers are like a slightly lighter color. And like all aromatic asters, it is an absolute pollinator magnet.
And next up, we have Baptisia decandens periwinkle popsicle. It's the newest color added to the decandens series with dark blue flowers, and it's a late bloomer. Grows best in full sun and attracts butterflies and pollinators.
And it's a great plant. The flowers stay a lot taller than other Baptisias. They really hang out above the foliage. It puts on a pretty good statement. It gets like 5 feet tall.
Yeah.
We have a lot of other colors in the decadent series too, so this is just a nice one to add into the mix if you're already growing some of those other colors.
Yeah. And while the Decadent series is the result of some pretty cool hybridization, this next plant, Baptisia tinctoria, is a true Northeast native. It's almost shrub-like perennial in that it gets pretty big. It has green foliage like most Baptisia, and its flowers are a little more delicate. They're yellow and they appear later than most Baptisia too, and they attract a wide range of pollinators. It's hardy to zone 3, and the white ripe seed pods provide ornamental interest beyond the flowering season. Next up, we have Campanula glomerata angel bells. It's a zone 3 hardy perennial, and it's got these really pretty white upward facing bell-shaped flowers, and they put on quite a show. They bloom for a pretty long time throughout the summer season. It's a great garden plant, and it also makes a really nice statement in like mixed container plantings. It only gets about 18 inches tall, so it's a good front plant and can handle full sun to some shade. It was great in a rock garden, and just a great source of color, like starting mid-spring to early summer.
And next up, we have Coreopsis verticillata designer threads series. Each variety was selected only after showing exceptional mildew resistance, and the blooms on this series persist for many weeks. We have 4 different varieties. We have creamy calico with light yellow flowers with a sharp maroon center. We have golden needles, golden flowers with a red eye, deep red eye, heartstrings, creamy flowers with a red eye, pink and red shades, and scarlet ribbons, velvety maroon with red flowers, and all varieties are drought tolerant.
Yeah, we have grown a lot of Coreopsis here at Pride's, but these kind of really impressed me in the summer. They were all really beautiful. And speaking of Coreopsis,
here we have a new Coreopsis for 2025. Coreopsis solana golden sphere. It's a new addition to the Bloom and Easy lineup. And this is just the first of many new Bloom and Easy perennials you'll see in this presentation. So if you are a display program customer, take note and make sure to add this one to your pre-book. I love this Coreopsis because it kind of has a cute, fluffy pom-pom-like flower. It's very compact, only growing to about 8 inches tall. So perfect for, the front of the border sort of area. It prefers to grow in a well-drained soil and full sun. It's long flowering and easy to deadhead. Makes a great companion plant for lavender or nepeta.
Yeah, and that picture at the bottom is pretty accurate. The thing was covered in flowers when we had it here this summer. Next up, we have the Delosperma Kaleidoscope series. I happen to love Delosperma. I just think the flowers are super cool. The foliage has great interest when it's not flowering pretty much all year long. And in my opinion, it's kind of an underused plant. This series is a little bit distinct in that they're hardier. It's hardy to zone 5. They're deer resistant. They still do need full sun, but they're a great ground cover to plant in any hot, dry area that you might have. Delosperma are native to Eastern and Southern Africa, and just a great succulent. My favorite is Razzle Dazzle. It's the one here with the pink outer rim and the purple center. I just think it's a beautiful flower, but they're all really nice. Dancing Embers is a bright red. Orchid Flare is a nice like lavender purple, and Pink Radiance is a bicolor with like a lilac pink exterior and a deeper center.
These would be great for any of your customers that have a tendency to sort of avoid watering and they have really hot, dry sites. Maybe they forget to water their plants. These ones would be a great one to suggest to them.
To border your pool.
Oh, yeah.
Next up,
we have Dianthus Glamour Thyme with vibrant hot pink flowers, large blooms, and long-lasting flowers. It blooms late spring to early summer, and it enjoys full sun and is pollinator friendly also.
I love the scent on Dianthus. It's one of my favorite features of them. Sometimes I like to clip them and put them in a tiny little bouquet in the house, but it's just nice when you have a bunch of them growing, you walk by and you smell that really nice clove scent. I know it responds really well to deadheading too. So you kind of just keep that going and enjoy that bloom and that scent for a long time.
Yeah, if you clip them, you'll keep it going. And it's great that it starts blooming so early when there's not a whole lot of color out there. So it's always a welcome sign of spring. Next up, we have Echinacea Vanilla Drip. It is a new addition to the new-ish perennial line by Bloom and Easy. And again, for all you display program customers, this would be a great one to add to your lineup. It's a double white flowering one, and it seems to hold its white a little better than some varieties did in the past. They're hardy to zone 3. They're pretty compact, about 2 feet tall, and they take full sun, and they have a really more vibrant color and just a really well structured plant.
Oh, here's another Echinacea for you guys. Echinacea Sun Magic Vintage Series. I'll be honest, I know Echinacea is one of those genuses that can seem sort of oversaturated at times.
Never.
Sometimes we don't have much to say about them, but I promise you guys won't be disappointed by this new series. So the claim to fame for this group is that they have really sturdy stems and outstanding branching. Because of that, you're going to be able to expect a higher flower count and blooms that last for months in the summer. We have 3 colors in the series. We have vintage fuchsia. This is your more classic pink with the dark orange center. Vintage mango, it has sort of a butter yellow petal with a dark yellow center, different than the sort of dark orange center you'll see on some of the other ones. And then vintage ruby is raspberry red and it has a dark red center. And a neat thing about this group is that they were listed as one of the top performing perennials in the Colorado State University trials in 2023. I know I've seen these in person later last year and they were just stunning. Stopped me in my tracks. I usually like to walk around and see what's shipping out to customers, and I immediately was drawn to these. We see a lot of echinacea. We have a lot of beautiful varieties, and these ones really stood out with that branching and that flower power.
And they stay pretty short too. So they're kind of a good sub for Kim's knee high, which everyone seems to still ask for, but a lot of growers aren't doing anymore. So I think that the vintage fuchsia is a great sub for that. Next up, we have a few new eupatoriums that we want to highlight. I think they've all been reclassified as eutrochium, but we tend to take our time renaming plants around here. The first one is Little Pie. It's unique in that it only gets about 3 to 4 feet tall, and in the world of eupatoriums, that makes it a dwarf. It has dusky pink flowers. It's hardy to zone 3, and like all the plants I'm going to talk about here, it blooms from midsummer all the way through fall. Then we have JoJo, which also stays relatively compact in that 3 to 4 foot range and has beautiful clusters of like really fluffy pink flowers. It's sterile, so it makes it quite well behaved in the garden. Where you put it, it will stay. And this one is hardy to zone 4.
I love the look of the flowers on this one. It really stands out different than the other eupatorium. So this one's definitely on the list for getting added to my garden this year.
Yes, yeah, nice little pink fluff balls. So we love all kinds of ornamental plants here at Pride's Corner, but we are also big fans of natives, and we're thrilled to see the message getting out to a wider audience now. We have been doing the American Beauties program for, I'm gonna guess here, but I think it's close to 20 years, 15 years or so, and it's really taken off in the last few years. We're super happy to see that. We've made a concerted effort to add more straight native species to our lineup, in addition to the great cultivars that we've been talking about. And this one is Eupatorium maculatum, and it's a big one. It's a big classic Joe Pye weed. It gets about 5 to 7 feet tall and has these dusky pink blooms that are just great for pollinators. They have nice seed heads. They stay attractive throughout the winter and just are a great addition to any garden that you want to keep going for multiple seasons. And the same can be said about Eupatorium purpureum. It's another super tall one, but this one also has a lovely vanilla scent, and that makes it really attractive to butterflies. And like all of these plants, it's going to bloom into the fall. And as an added bonus, planting native species contributes to the local ecosystem in many ways, provides food and shelter for native insects, and ensures genetic diversity. So these would be great ones to add to your American Beauties display.
Hey, Stephanie, this is Allison. I just wanted to run back to the echinaceas before I move on. There's a couple questions that came in. One of them, Natalie wanted to know if the vanilla drip echinacea was going to revert back to a single. Do you have any insight on that?
I can't say with certainty. I know that they had, it had been tested for a while before it came to Pride's Corner, and we've not seen any reversion to single. So as far as we know, it's going to maintain the double flower.
And I think sometimes when these echinaceas are hybrids, which a lot of these doubles are, they can kind of, the single parents can kind of come through. But with this being new genetics from Bloom and Easy, hopefully that won't be the case, but time will tell. Another quick question was, somebody asked, Katie asked if there's a trick for new echinaceas returning in the spring. She says she's had problems with them kind of coming back in the springtime after they're planted. Any suggestions for her?
I think that a lot of these newer varieties have have made that not as much of a problem as it was in the past. I know a lot of the first tissue culture echinaceas had a little bit of a problem with hardiness, but I think these newer varieties tend to come back a lot better. I don't know. Do you have experience with the?
Well, I know the Sun Magic series, that also was one that they sort of talk about the improved hardiness. So it's definitely something that the plant breeders are thinking about because that is a pretty common issue in certain garden areas. I think for echinacea, especially in our area, when you're planting it, you definitely want it in a well-drained site. Anytime it sits and gets soggy over winter, that's oftentimes when you're going to lose that plant.
Yeah.
It can look good for a really long time and bloom beautifully, and then if it just sort of gets wet and soggy in the winter time, that can really be the mark of death for that plant. But these new ones definitely have improved hardiness.
I think the genetics are way improved from even a few years ago with the tissue culture multicolored echinacea, but also, like you said, it's also about where you plant it. Next up, we have Gypsophila paniculata festival star, or a hardy baby's breath. They bloom for months. They're a perfect companion plant for things like poppies or bleeding hearts or any kind of bulb flower that goes dormant in the summer. It makes a great camouflage for that. And they also have beautiful dried flowers. This one gets about 12 to 18 inches tall. It needs full sun and it remains pretty tidy throughout the season. And if you cut them, you encourage better branching and reblooming.
I think we have a whole series of plants that people could start making their own bouquets.
Yep. You mix the dried flowers with some Aster-Lamaria.
Yeah, exactly. So here we have one of my new favorites for 2025. Heliopsis, Helianthoides, raised for days. Heliopsis is just such a great workhorse in the perennial garden. It tolerates full sun to part shade and a wide range of growing conditions. It's also hardy from zones 3 to 9. What makes Raised for Days special at Pride's is that it's our first fully double Heliopsis. We have a lot of other varieties, but this is that double one, which is exciting for us. Comes to us from our friends at Walter's Gardens, who tout it as being their most floriferous selection to date. It's nice for middle of the garden. The height is maxes out at about 24 to 26 inches, which is much different than the street species, which can reach to almost 5 feet tall.
And the flowers are big. I don't know if the picture does it justice. Compared to like that really nice double flowering Coreopsis with flowers like this, these are pretty good sized flowers. It's a really pretty plant.
And keeping with the Heliopsis trend, we have Heliopsis, Helianthoides, Touch of Blush. So this one has really unique variegated leaf. We have another variety in our lineup called Bit of Honey, but the claim to fame for this one is that it has a dark center cone and gets a pink flush when the new foliage appears in spring. Kind of gives this plant a little bit of a longer interest season. Has a more common Heliopsis flower than our previous slide. So it has petite semi-double flowers in early summer, and it just gets covered in a sea of warm sort of yellow flowers. It's great to pair with any sort of perennial that has dark foliage. I love a Still Be Dark Side of the Moon for that, but also sedum puff pastry could be a good companion, and we'll be talking about that a little later in the presentation.
Little preview. Yeah. Next up, we have Hellebore Wedding Party series. This series has been around for a few years. I think it was introduced in like 2015 maybe. And whenever I come across one at a garden center, it always gave me pause. I was really hoping that we would be carrying them someday, and here we are. They're all double flowering. They're all prolific bloomers and provide nectar for early spring pollinators. First up, we have Childhood, which has this really nice yellow interior petal with red veining. And then on the outside, it's burgundy. It's really striking. And then we have one of my favorites, Dark and Handsome, which is almost black. I love a flower that's almost black. And this one really, really, I wouldn't even call it purple. And then Last up, we have the mixed. And the thing about any mixed series of plants is most of them are mixed from seed. And what that means is you're rolling the dice. It is entirely possible that your mix will contain only one color. So the wedding party series solves that problem by mixing them at a plug level to ensure that you are going to get a true mix of colors. It could be black, mauve, white, yellow, pink, but you're not going to get just one. So
Hellebore are great deer resistant plants too.
yes,
You know, I think it's that classic one that we always talk about. And obviously deer pressure is a huge issue for lots of people. And this one is really, really deer resistant.
super deer resistant and just a super early bloomer. And man, the flowers last forever.
Yeah.
They're one of the first things that I see blooming when I walk outside my house. I have hellebores planted right outside my door. They start blooming as soon as the winter is right at its tail end, and they keep going for like a good couple of months. Next up, we have two new additions to the Hemerocallis Rainbow Rhythm series. There's no two ways about it. Hemerocallis can sometimes feel like a pretty tired genus of plants, but the Rainbow Rhythm series is breathing new life into it. They're all tetraploids. They all have these really large, intensely colored blooms, and they're all rebloomers. The two latest here are Blood, Sweat, and Tears with a big raspberry flower with a yellow throat, and Persian Ruby with also a yellow throat, but a really deep burgundy exterior outside petal. And there's a reason why you see Stelladoros in every parking lot median and every restaurant border that you go to and have for the last several decades. It's because these plants are tough. They can take just about anything you throw at them. And the Rainbow Rhythm just really add beauty to that. They're just so much more interesting than some of the older varieties.
These flowers are huge
Like,
too.
Big.
Yeah, I saw them lined
Yeah.
up with other Hemerocallis earlier or later last year, and it was just stunning. I was shocked at how large those flowers were compared to some of the others. So definitely a striking addition to your
Yeah.
garden and your garden center too. I think, you know, have a bunch of those lined up on a bench and your customers are going to flock to them.
Oh,
for
they
sure.
really make a statement. Yeah, you could probably fit a whole Stelladoro plant inside one of these flowers.
And next up, we have Heuchera Spice Curls. It's a dense, compact, silvery purple foliage with red shade flowers, blooms from spring to summer, and it grows 12 to 14 inches tall and 14 to 16 inches wide. It is suitable for zones 4 and not throughout 9. And it's one of the Heucheras that is that it should be planted that can take full sun instead of part shade. I know we had looked that up and discussed because this is one of the Heucheras that does well in full sun.
Yeah, we all did a double take when we first saw it. So we wanted to confirm when we
Yeah.
saw this plant come up and it said full sun, we wanted to make sure. And yeah, it can take full sun without burning.
Yeah. And next up, we have Hibiscus Honorific Lilac Crush. It has an upright columnar habit, as you can see in the picture, with lilac beautiful flowers. It is a fast growing and capable of adding an inch of growth a day, and it is deer resistant.
Finally, we have a plant that we can watch grow here.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Hibiscus Marshmallow Moon. So this is brought to us from Walter's Gardens. They did extensive trials with this plant in an effort to improve upon the old white cultivar that most of you guys are probably familiar with, Blue River 2. Marshmallow Moon has a nice size, coming in at about 3 to 4 feet tall. It's not going to overwhelm its neighbors in the garden, but it can hold its own too. The pure white flowers appear along almost the entire length of the stem, giving you more overall blooms for the whole plant. So an interesting thing that they also focused on when breeding this plant was the thickness of the petals. I know a lot of times with a perennial hibiscus, the flowers really feel like tissue paper, and you get a strong rain or a windstorm, and all of a sudden they just sort of gross, melted on the plant almost. So this one actually has much thicker petals, which is really going to help it to sort of hold up during any of those harsh winter conditions. The worst thing is when you have a plant that's full and beautiful, and then you get one rainstorm and then you look out and it looks terrible.
Yeah.
And that's it for the season, and
Mhm.
that's all you get. So this one's going to hang out a lot longer for you guys, and I think you'll be really satisfied with it.
Yeah, I mean, I love perennial hibiscus, but it blooms right about the time it starts getting cold at night around here. And a lot of times it takes just one night under 50 degrees for the flowers to become mush. And I think that this one is going to hold up a lot better.
And a pure white hibiscus for all of our Long Island customers.
That's right. Next up, we have 2 new additions to the Hosta Shadowland series. So a few years ago, I was lucky to be able to visit Walter's Garden in Michigan, and I met their master hybridizer, Hans Hansen, and saw the endless sea of hostas that they are working on there at any given time. So out of that endless sea, the Shadowland represents the cream of the crop. To be included in the series, they test to make sure that they do well in many climates. They have leaves of good substance that makes them somewhat more resistant to pests like slugs. And these are the 2 latest. Lone Star, which is kind of a medium green with a vivid gold margin, and Sound of Music, which is huge. It kind of rivals the old Empress Wu in its largeness. It gets about 3 feet tall and around 4.5 to 5 feet wide. It has really nice blue foliage with a chartreuse center. That one's my favorite out of the 2 new ones. And then I am really excited to have these guys back. I love Ito peonies. They're crosses between herbaceous peonies and tree peonies, and it really gives you kind of the best of both worlds. And they have these really beautiful, huge, showy flowers, just like an herbaceous peony, but they are way less prone to flopping. The varieties for this series bloom for several weeks and produce up to 50 flowers in a single season. And the flowers are gently fragrant. We have Cora Louise, a pure white with a lavender purple heart. Julia Rosa, which matures to shades of pink, yellow, and apricot. And Scrumdiddlyumptious, certainly the funnest one to say, with creamy yellow blooms with a pink blush and edges. And they're almost a shrub-like perennial. They get 2 to 3 feet tall and 2 to 4 feet wide. And they just stand up really nice compared to other varieties of peonies. And they're an excellent source of cut flowers.
And I'm glad you got this slide because I wouldn't be able to say that word at all.
What's
I'm like,
Scrumdiddlyumptious?
Come on.
Oh, I think with your accent, it would have come off much better.
And next up, we have Lobelia Starship series. These are not really new to us, but we love to highlight these plants. The varieties on this series are deer and rabbit resistance. They grow well in containers and in borders and beds. They should be planted in part shade, but will also thrive in full sun if enough moisture is available. They bloom from early summer into the fall, and attract hummingbirds, butterflies, and songbirds. We have 3 different colors. So we have Starship blue with beautiful dark blue blossoms, and we have Starship rose, red blossoms with pink shades, and it's a compact upright. And we have Starship scarlet. That's my favorite. It's brilliant red flowers and a true color to the cardinal flower for sure.
I love how versatile this plant is.
Yeah.
It's really easy to incorporate in any area of your garden.
Yeah.
Now that they've improved on this variety, before you really had to be picky about where you planted it.
Yeah.
It needed a lot of moisture.
And it
These
can
ones
still
are so
take a
tough.
lot of moisture, but
Exactly.
it just
Right.
it doesn't have to be growing on the edge of a river to survive.
Yeah.
Right.
And it really does attract hummingbirds. I mean, I've seen them in person. They're beautiful. And it's
Yeah.
so exciting to get the hummingbirds in your garden.
Yeah, I think it rivals like some of the penstemon and agastache for getting just a lot of hummingbird attention.
Definitely.
Next up, we have Miscanthus High Frequency. This is the latest addition to the Worry Free collection. And like all the Worry Free grasses, it is sterile. So that means it'll stay exactly where you want it to. And also for all our New York customers, it means that it does not have to ship with the strip tag declaring it potentially invasive, like all the other miscanthus require, and will not scare off your customers because it's a great grass. This one gets pretty tall. It gets about 6 to 7 feet. It can handle some shade. It has really nice seed heads in the fall to provide a little bit of extra interest, and looks nice dried in the winter. It tolerates a wide range of soil, so it makes it just really adaptable and a nice accent piece to any garden.
It's also part of our worry-free lineup, which is a nice collection of plants that are worry-free. So.
Yeah, I know. I said that they were sterile, but it's more than that. You don't have to worry about them.
Yep.
You don't have to worry about them running away. You don't have to worry about a lot of things.
Worry free.
Yep. And speaking of penstemon earlier, another great hummingbird plant.
Yeah, here we have penstemon, the Bejeweled series. So penstemon, you know, we can be honest, it's one of those plants that we all love to hate. It's beautiful in the container. It's got neon colors. It's almost like an annual. It's striking shape. But some of the older hybrids can be unreliable after a few years. And then they start to kind of get sparse and weedy. You look through your garden, you're like, where? I thought I had penstemon here. It's gone. Or you get a little sprig here and there. So this new Bejeweled series has really solved that problem. And it promises a dense habit, strong stems, and really larger than normal flowers. Penstemon in general loves full sun. It thrives in well-drained soil, and this one is also salt tolerant and, of course, favorite of hummingbirds. So we have two colors in the series, pink pearls, which is a nice sort of hot pink with a regular green foliage, and then rose rhinestones is going to be a little bit redder than pink pearls, but honestly, either one of these is a real knockout, and I think you guys are really going to like them.
Yeah, and a lot of times when you get a penstemon this vibrant with flowers this big, it is an annual or it's sold as a perennial. And this one is hardy to zone 4, but really has a lot of the attributes the more less hardy ones have. So we have 2 new additions to the Phlox paniculata luminary series. And this is a pretty crowded genus of plants, right? We have a lot of upright phlox, but these have stood out to me with every introduction that they've put out. They're some of my favorite plants that we carry. They're just really impressive. And the 2 latest ones, I think will continue that. We have prismatic pink. It's a beautiful kind of vibrant pink flower with a red eye. It's hardy to zone 3. They do need full sun. Pink lightning is the taller of them. That one gets to about 3 feet tall, and it has the largest blooms of any of the plants in the series, and maybe the largest blooms of any of the paniculatas that we carry. They do have increased tolerance to resistance to mildew, and yeah, I just think that they're a great addition to a series that already includes great plants like backlight and ultraviolet. So we look forward to having these. Next up,
we have Salvia nemorosa perpetual purple. It offers a deep purple flowers that maintain their vibrant color even after the petals drop. This plant thrives in full sun and blooms late spring to early fall. It is heat tolerant and attracts butterflies, and it is also deer resistant. I love the deep purple color in this one. It's such a like a vibrant purple.
Yeah, and it's great in that, you know, salvia bloom for a long time. They're beautiful plants in the garden, but once they're done and they start to not look so good.
Right.
So it's pretty cool that this kind of maintains some color and interest after.
Right.
Absolutely.
Now we're on to a couple of grasses.
Oh, I'm excited to tell you guys about this one. I got to nerd out a little bit on this one. So this one has a really cool backstory. Cisacrium scoparium tonka. I thought, okay, that's got to have some sort of story with it. And I got to look it up and I was really excited. This is actually a selection from Cassian Schmidt and Pete Udolph. I'm sure you guys know who these guys are, but they're famous plantsmen. They collected the seed for this on a botanizing trip to Tonka State Park in South Central Missouri. So back home in Germany, they sowed the seeds and then began crossing the offspring. He and Udolf collaborated on making the selections over time, and then this cultivar was the result. I'm sure that this is featured somewhere on now I'm blanking on the name, up in New York, that Pete Udolf planted a bunch, the Skyline.
Oh, the
Yeah,
Highline.
the Highline. Yeah,
Highline.
that's what it is. Oh my goodness.
Skyline,
Yeah. Skyline,
Highline.
Highline, whatever. So, so Haha Tonka has a rigid upright habit. It's slightly taller than the blues, which you guys are probably familiar with, but shorter than Blue Heaven. So it's right in between there. The real standout feature on this one, though, is that all of the stems have these fuzzy little hairs on them, which gives it almost sort of like a glowing halo effect. You can see it a little bit in this picture, but definitely a lot more when you see it in person.
Yeah.
And then in the fall, it doesn't disappoint. It's got really great fall color. It turns shades of red, orange, and copper.
Yeah, and the picture doesn't do it justice really with the halo-like effect. It really does make it distinct among a sea of Schizachyrium. And next up, we have Schizachyrium, Schizachyrium, potato, patata, littoral. It's a native coastal dune grass. We added this to our selection after getting a lot of requests for it from re-wholesale customers who service coastal areas like Cape Cod and Long Island. It's super tough. It has really striking blue-green foliage. It provides cover for shorebirds, migratory birds, and small mammals in coastal areas. And in addition to that, in addition to being a great dune restoration grass, it can also be used for urban projects. So we look forward to seeing this a little bit more out there. And it stays short. It maxes out at about 2 feet tall, and it is hardy to zone 3.
Sedum puff pastry from Bloomin' Easy is one of the new groups of dark-leaved sedums. The standout feature on this group is that the flowers actually age well. I know with most sedums, they sort of turn brown, they don't look great, you want to cut them down. These ones look nice throughout the season. They have strong stems that resist flopping and obviously do best in full sun. Sedum is another one of those plants that can offer winter interest in the garden. The flowers dry nicely, and then they also attract birds that enjoy the seed heads. I know in my garden, personally, I get a lot of goldfinches and things like that that go after echinacea and sedum, different seed heads, grasses. So this is one that's going to add some winter interest and attract your birds in the garden, which is nice. We have 2 colors for this series. There's raspberry, which shockingly has red flowers, and white chocolate, which has the creamy yellow flowers.
It's a pretty flower.
I think that one is so striking. Yeah. The yellow flowers against that really deep foliage. It's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
And keeping on with the later bloomers, we have some Stokesia.
We have Stokesia, Totally Stoked series. Both of these varieties produce numerous flowers from early to late summer. They attract butterflies and are bee friendly as well as deer resistant. So we have 2 colors. We have Riptide. It has periwinkle blue flowers and white caps, white flowers with a blush pink tinge, and they will both rebloom if dead-headed. So that's a good thing to know.
Yeah, and they bloom pretty late. They're a nice alternative to asters. These are hardy to zone 5. They get pretty good size. I've always really liked Stokesia, and I like that the white one, I like that nice tinge of blush. It makes it a little different from some things that we've seen. Last up, another not new, but we really want to highlight it because we just love this series. Veronica Magic Show Ever After. The Magic Show series has been great for us. We always sell out. It includes white wands, which I'm seeing getting requested more and more, Wizard of Oz, among others, and they've all just been stellar performers for us, and I think great sellers in the garden center as well. Ever After has a soft lavender hue flower, and it really puts on a show for quite some time. And they stay very short. They only get about 14 to 16 inches tall. They can handle some shade, which is nice, and they are self-cleaning. Do we have any questions out there, Allison?
No, we seem-
Okay,
Great.
then we have one more thing to highlight in perennials before we move on, and that is our EcoPod. So
Oh,
these
actually, Stephanie, one just came through. They wanted to know what self-cleaning is.
What self-cleaning?
You were talking about is it Veronica?
So that means,
Self-cleaning flowers.
yeah, so that means that you actually don't have to deadhead
Yeah.
the plant or the flowers, the spent blooms. Those petals are just sort of going to fall off naturally. They're not going to stick to the plant. So you'll still have the flower stalk itself, but the little petals will just sort of fall down
won't
naturally.
stick to it and brown out. Yeah, yep,
So just have a cleaner overall look for the plant.
yeah.
Awesome, thanks.
Okay. All right. So these are our EcoPods. We rolled them out this summer on kind of a limited basis. It's something that we're learning as we go. Anyone who's gotten them or will get them, we really appreciate feedback on them because we think that they are so important to the future of containerized plants. We as an industry, we call ourselves the green industry, but we waste a lot of plastic. So we're always looking for alternatives. And it's a challenge, no doubt, because we also need a container that's going to hold up well. So for our 1 gallon American Beauty perennials, we're trying to transition them over to these EcoPods instead. They are in this nice little cardboard container. It's a great retail package. You'll get the tag with it and just a nice presentation. They come in trays of 8 and they contain 96% less plastic compared to traditional containers. Additionally, they're not just good for the environment, they are good for your customers to plant.
Look at the roots on that.
The difference between these and a traditional container, can you hand me is they allow room for the roots to get some air. And what that results in, this is what we grow them in here before our shipping department puts them in those containers for you. What that results in is the roots get pruned by the air. So they don't tend to circle the pot as you see in a traditional plastic container. Now, what that means for your customer is that they have really strong root systems and they adapt really quickly to being planted and result in a healthier end product for the person who gets it. So when you combine that with the eco-friendliness of this container, I think they're going to be a super success for us. And again, we always welcome your feedback on them. We're experimenting with different genuses of plants to put into them. I think we did about 15 varieties this year, and we're bumping that up to about 25 for spring. So we're really excited about them. And I think that concludes the perennial portion of this presentation. So I am going to hand it off to Chris Valley and Heather Nixon, our Connecticut and Rhode Island sales team. If you'll hold for one moment while we do a game of musical chairs to get them over here. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, as they're shifting seats, there's been a couple questions about when the video is going to be out. So maybe you have to step away and but you really want to know about the roses. We're going to be posting it at the latest, probably early next week, maybe even tomorrow. We'll see how it goes. So those will look for the video. You'll be able to find that on our YouTube channel. We'll also send it out in an email. You also see it on our website. You also contact our sales team. They'll all be able to help you find that video. And there's a bunch of questions coming in about the eco containers. One question was, are they recyclable or biodegradable? They are a wax coated paper, similar to what like a milk carton is. So if you can recycle milk cartons in your area, then they are recyclable. Then you can recycle these in the same spot. So without further ado, here's Chris and Heather.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining. My name's Chris Valley. I'm here with Heather Nixon. We're your Connecticut, Rhode Island, and the top of New Jersey sales team. We're excited today to talk about roses, but before that, we have a little section that we threw in on tropicals, and Heather's going to take that one.
Okay, so let's talk about everyone's favorite summer plant, tropical hibiscus. So this is a new one to Pride's Hollywood hibiscus series. It includes 5 varieties: America's Sweetheart, Disco Diva, Earth Angel, Hot Shot, and Rico Suave, each with their own unique coloring. These summer hibiscus are big hummingbird magnets due to their vibrant colors and high bud count. Each flower typically lasts around 3 days, and it will continue to produce blooms all summer. They're disease resistant and they max out around 4 to 5 feet. They require full sun, love the heat, and can be a great addition to a landscape or planter. And with that, I'll turn it over to Chris to talk about roses.
Thanks. I am very excited that we have these Hollywood hibiscus. I've seen them in person and they are stunning. Okay, for roses, we only have, I think, about 17 or so it's not a long chunk. The first one I'm going to talk about is Above and Beyond. It's part of the First Editions brand. This is a climbing rose, and it's very well suited for New England's colder climates. It combines cold hardiness, reliable spring flowering, vigorous growth, and it has a very high resistance to fungal disease. Combine that with its unique color, and it's a one-of-a-kind rose. It has orange flower buds that open in clusters of 5 or more, apricot-colored semi-double to double flowers. Above and Beyond blooms in mid to late spring with sporadic flowering through the summer. It's going to get to about 14 feet tall if you never prune it, and it says 2 to 14 feet wide. It's really dependent on how you prune that plant. That's a hell of a range. It's a zone 3 plant. All the roses I'm going to talk about today are full sun. Those are the bullet points for this one. The next one is Rosa Colette. This is part of the Bloomables series from Star Roses. The Bloomables line for us has really exploded. We have quite a few varieties nowadays. All of them are good. There's a mixture of climbing roses, floribundas, teas, grandifloras, all mixed in. It's a very nice line of roses. This particular one is an old-fashioned style rose. It's a very, very vigorous plant. It's got a strong arching canes, and they reach approximately 10 feet tall and get about 3 feet wide. It flowers really heavily with abundant clusters of 3-inch old-fashioned pink flowered roses with a whopping 135 ruffled petals in that cluster, which is really cool. The blooms repeat in flushes from late spring through late fall. It's very disease resistant, and it's a very versatile plant. This climber will weave up your arbors, your pergolas. It's going to thread through trellises and fences and spiral around poles and pillars gracefully. It's a beautiful, beautiful plant. The next one is part of our Knockout Rose collection. This is called Easy Beasy Knockout. This plant delivers flower power like none of the others. It's got very fragrant yellow flowers that bloom repeatedly from spring to frost. That's a welcome addition in the Knockout line. Most of them don't really smell too great. This one does. You can smell it before you see it. You can plant it individually. You can plant it in a group. You can mix it with other perennials, other shrubs. Should bloom for you all summer long. Kind of similar to hydrangea macrophylla that repeat bloom. If you give it a slight little trim after the flowers passed, you'll encourage the next round of blooms quicker. If you don't, it'll happen just a little bit longer. The foliage on this is really glossy. Click on the wrong screen. The next one is Rosa Elizabeth. This is part of the David Austin Rose collection, which is typically known for those old-fashioned type smelly roses. This one is a majestic rose bearing clusters of large, crisp apple blossom pink rosettes, paling to the gentlest of blush white. Has a strong, sweet, fresh fragrance with hints of lemon sherbet and that old rose scent. Exceptionally healthy and versatile of habit, she forms a shapely and commanding shrub. So it's a pretty easy plant to grow. You plant it, you shouldn't have to form it. It's going to make a nice little bush about 4 feet tall and 4 feet wide, all on its own. And it's very, very healthy. Does not get much for diseases at all. This one is a grafted rose, and I didn't speak of that yet, but roses are grafted or on their own root. And the difference is with the grafted, you're taking a non-hardy top rose that's beautiful that you want to see, and you are marrying it with the rootstock of a hardy rose that will live here in New England. And the two put together will make this rose survive in our climate. An own root rose is just like it says. There is no grafting done from the roots all the way up to the top of the plant. It is that one singular plant, which is always a safer bet. If you can get an own root rose up in New England, that will be a better choice for you than a grafted rose. Some of our winters are a little rough, and I would imagine everybody has seen the top part of a grafted rose die off and have the rootstock then grow up. And you bought one rose and planted it, and then the next year, this entirely different flowering rose pops up. And that's typically what happens. And that is the difference between grafted and own root. The next one is part of the Bloombles line again. It's called Enchanted Meadow. It's about a 3x3 rose. It's zone 5. This rose brings like a magical transformation to your garden. It's got a very interesting flower that's colored with cream, pink, and green blooms. The petals change as the season moves along and cooler weather comes. It'll bring out more vibrant hues, while the warmer temperatures reveal more green tones, creating a dynamic display of nature's artistry. This exceptional rose is a feast for the eyes and a gardener's dream. Enchanted Meadow's remarkable disease resistance and abundant blooms ensure a flourishing, worry-free garden. And additionally, being an own root rose, it offers superior hardiness and longevity. The next one is part of the David Austin line. It is an old-fashioned variety called Evelyn. The blooms are particularly large on this one. It has over 100 petals per flower. It's very attractive with the petals being beautifully arranged as they are. The color is a glorious soft apricot, sometimes tinged with soft pink. It has a wonderful fragrance to it, which is similar in style to an old rose scent, but with a sumptuous fruity note, reminiscent of fresh peaches and apricot. And the descriptive words for the smell of these roses. Next one is the flower carpet added a new collection of shrub type roses that get bigger and have scent than the prior flower carpet roses you're familiar with. These ones are very large bloomed. They're very fragrant, and they have more of that old world look to the flowers, but with all the benefits of the modern disease resistance. This is all thanks to just plant breeding. There are several lovely colored varieties in the flower carpet fragrant shrub rose range, each as bewitching as the other. As if being easy to grow aren't enough, flower carpet shrub roses are also deliciously perfumed. These grow in full sun. They're going to produce masses of large, fragrant rose blooms from early spring to the first frost. You'll have many rose blooms either to enjoy in the garden or pick for a vase indoors. The foliage is mid-green colored, very lush and robust. Overall, these are tidy plants that should just be planted and enjoyed. You shouldn't have to do much to them. Very good disease resistance and a good size. In the regular flower carpet category, we added peach. It's an easy care ground cover. It's got a single peach colored flower. Some will be semi-double, but most are single. It's a self-cleaning type of plant. So as these flower petals go away, they just fall off. It doesn't detract from the look of the plant at all. They should bloom for up to 10 months continuously. In the warmer climates up here, it's probably just late spring through early fall. They're resistant to mildew and black spot, and they tolerate drought once established. They're perfect for the border of the garden or in decorative pots. This is a new David Austin rose variety called Gabriel Oak. It's a magnificent variety. It's got huge, many-petaled rosette blooms. They are a striking shade of deep pink, the outer petals of each bloom paling slightly over time. The beauty of the blooms is enhanced by a wonderful, strong, fruity fragrance. A vigorous rose, it forms a very shapely, broad, rounded shrub with mulberry purple stems and a dark green foliage, giving the overall impression of richness and abundance. This is named after the beloved character in Thomas Hardy's novel, Far from the Madding Crowd. And it was released in 2019 from David Austin. It's about 4 feet tall and 4 feet wide. It's a zone 4 plant. The next one is part of Bloomables from Star. It is Rosa Loves Me Not. This is a 4 foot tall by 2 foot wide hybrid tea style rose. It is on its own root stock. It's got very deep pink flowers with a strong sweet fragrance. It smells like lilac and pineapple. Each of the enormous 5-inch blooms is bursting with over 200 petals in each. And you're going to have a hard time finding a rose with a fuller bloom than Loves Me Not. And plus, it's got a cool name. I think it'll sell just because of the name. This one's a little less hardy than the rest I talked about. It's zone 6, so it should do fine from the midline of Connecticut south. But above that, I'm sorry, you probably can't have this as a hardy plant. Next one is in the knockout line. It's Orange Glow Knockout. Similar in stature to the rest of the knockout collection, except it has an orange flower. It's a very true orange flower. It blushes out to an orangey pink towards the end of its flower. It will repeat bloom like the rest of the knockout series does. And it also has the great disease resistance like the rest of the knockout series is known for. This is another bloomable rose called Romantica Ball Gown. It's a 5 foot by 2 foot zone 5 rose. It's lush pink. This one also has over 100 petals per bloom. The fragrance is just like you'd expect an old world rose to be. I don't know what we actually call that, but that old world scent, I guess, is what it is. It's a very good plant. This one isn't so much known for its disease resistance and such. It's just a really petal packed flower on there with a great scent. This is Rosa Sally Holmes. It's a free flowering rose. It's nearly always in bloom. Once it starts, it's going to be sporting flowers through the summertime. It is a good pollinator attractant, and it isn't thornless, but it has far less thorns than most of the roses do. It's going to get 6 to 10 feet tall and 3 to 5 feet wide, and it's a zone 5 plant. And the True Bloom roses, we're pretty heavy here in True Bloom. I love the line myself. It is a combination of a bunch of different types of roses under one brand, but all of them look great. We have some new ones here. True Spirit, True Serenity, True Bliss, True Perfume. True Spirit is a dark red hybrid tea bloom. It's packed with petals. It's got glossy, dark green leaves, provides the perfect backdrop for these fragrant, full flowers. It's very disease resistant. The size is cool. It only gets 3 by 3 at maturity, which is really nice. You can tuck these anywhere. It's got 50 plus petals per flower. The True Serenity next to it is a hybrid tea sporting fragrant, full, dark pink flowers over a leafy canvas of glossy dark green. This one's also 3 by 3 at maturity, and it has 40 petals per flower. True Bliss is a beautifully colored pink and white blend. And this hybrid tea is very fragrant. The blooms are showcased on a glossy green bed of disease-resistant foliage. This one also gets 3 by 3 at maturity, and it has 30 plus petals per flower. And True Perfume is an outstanding garden choice featuring very fragrant pink flowers. It's got great glossy green leaves, and it should have about 50 petals per flower. What's nice about the True Bloom line in general is it's a very disease resistant line. That's the number one. The flower colors that are chosen are all beautiful. All of them seem to have a lot of petals in their flowers. It's an easy line to just adopt them all and put them all out at the garden center. They're all own root. They're all tough. It's a good line of plants. There's a couple more. This is True Delight on the top. It's a climber. It's all about big. It's a big plant. The blooms are striped yellow and salmon pink. It's got glossy green leaves. It's highly fragrant and disease resistant. It gets 6 feet by 3 feet and has 25 plus petals per flower. And then True Devotion is a light green leaf and a highly fragrant light pink flower. It's got 50 plus petals in each. It's a highly vigorous climbing hybrid tea, and it's disease resistant and should get to about 7 feet by 3 feet at maturity with 50 or more petals per flower. Another bloomables introduction is Rosa Winning Streak. In my mind, this one is good for the size. It's about a 2 foot by 2 foot rose. It's zone 6 to 11. The petals are red striped with yellowy white. It's very compact, like I said. It's a vigorous performer, and it's more resistant than your typical striped roses. The Flavorette series is from Proven Winner. We introduced one last year. We have a few more this year. The point of this line is to take the petals and incorporate them into your cooking. So this is a brand new way to love roses on your plate. The new line of Flavorette roses is going to transform your garden from just viewable to edible. Each rose was bred for reliable landscape performance and excellent taste. So you'll get the best of both worlds. With Flavorette Honey Apricot Rose, you're going to get luscious, bowl-shaped, petal-filled blooms continuously through the summertime. Flavorette Paired, you're going to get a soft pink bowl-shaped bloom. Each petal is very thick and very soft. It's just perfect for adding a lush feeling and a pear flavor to your sweet and savory dishes. Doesn't require deadheading. It should just rebloom all on its own. It's got great disease resistance. It gets to about 4 feet tall by 4 feet wide. It's a zone 4. Kind of a neat twist on what to do with these roses. That's it. And that's the last one. Supposedly honey apricot tastes like honey apricot, and paired tastes like paired. And although they do taste a little different than normal rose petals, I've tried them. They taste like rose petals, but it's neat to see that this is encouraging people to use roses in a different way. So is there any questions? Anybody have any rose questions? If you ask me the crosses, I'm not going to know the crosses to these. No questions?
Yeah, I don't see anything coming through, Chris. Thanks so much. Thanks so
Thank
much,
you.
guys.
Thank you, guys.
So we will be posting this onto our YouTube channel, and you can find it on our website once it's been posted as well. If you have any questions, always reach out to your sales team, and we'll be able to, if we don't know, we'll definitely dig into it and find out some more. A couple questions are now coming in. Boy, a lot of them here. Let's see. They wanted to know if you're growing the florettes organically.
From what?
The flavorettes organically.
No,
No, I get
certainly
it.
we are not. But in all honesty, if we did grow them organically, the minute I shipped them out of here and they landed somewhere else, they would not be organic anymore. So we're not going to use anything harsh on them, but we're not going the route of an edible plant on that particular rose currently now.
And I've tried these myself as well, and yeah, they're kind of, it is kind of different. But yeah, I wouldn't say it tastes exactly like a pear, but it does have kind of a pear essence to it.
A little spicy.
Yeah. So see, Bailey says, what exactly is a floribunda category of rose?
The floribunda, when you look at all the different roses, the floribunda one is going to have big clusters of very small double roses typically. So you'll get a big flower head of a whole bunch of little roses in it. That would be a floribunda. It also repeat blooms more so than most of the others do. So the grandiflora type will just give you those really big 50+ petal roses. That's a grandiflora. The hybrid tea is more like the cut rose you would buy in the grocery store. There's a dozen red roses, and that's the hybrid tea style flower. And then there's a shrub type rose also, which are like the ground cover, like flower carpets and drift roses. And then the climbers are obviously the ones that just grow up more than they grow out.
Great. And just to remind everybody, we do have a resource that's linked on our website for a rose book that talks about all the varieties we're going to be growing this year, kind of shows pictures of them, talks about the types like Chris just mentioned, the benefits of own root and grafted, as he mentioned earlier too. So make sure you check out that resource. It's linked to one of the slides on our website. Looks like that's all the questions we have, guys. Thanks so much, and hopefully we'll see you next week when we talk about fruit trees.